Day 3 of Notre Dame's preseason practice. Tim Prister with Tim O'Malley from Irish Illustrated and John Brice from FootballScoop. We're outside Gate B, the Air Parsegian Gate here outside of Notre Dame Stadium. As I said, practice 3, we had 5 periods to watch. And JB, you and I were both around the offensive line early on. Joe Rudolph was a little bit salty today. I don't think that he was completely satisfied with what he was seeing. I think there's a competition going that we'll talk about in a second, but talk about Joe Rudolph and his approach with his offensive line today.
Talk about things that are non-negotiable in the Notre Dame football program. Joe Rudolph wants intensity out of his offensive line, and it's non-negotiable, and it's non-negotiable from the very outset of this camp, I would contend. I think I maybe said this with T.O. yesterday. It doesn't matter if we're on the defensive field. We're hearing Mike Denbrock and Joe Rudolph above every other coach, and Joe Rudolph is coaching. He's not yelling to yell. He is coaching those guys, and they're already working combo blocks. They're already working to pick up blitzes. Today was a heavy day on eye discipline and making sure that the offensive linemen were checking the alignments pre-snap, that they were understanding where guys were likely to be coming from on the defensive side of the ball. It's just, to me, it's an advanced level of teaching and coaching that's going on, particularly when you consider it's day 3.
And that left guard spot that we've talked about with Rocco Spindler and Pat Coogan or vice versa, that's still a competition. But I would suggest that especially at this stage of camp, it's a 3-man competition. I would say Sullivan, Absher, they're making sure that he's getting the reps. Obviously, the other two guys have way more experience and they have an advantage. But I wouldn't just say it's necessarily 2 guys, and it could be 3. Now, Tim, on the defensive side of the ball, which you had today, you were around the linebackers. Max Bulla, the linebacker coach. You know, we know that there's really good talent there. There's only one really experienced guy. That's Jack Kaiser. What did you see from Bulla and the linebackers today?
Yeah, it was a good drill to be over with the linebackers because it was basically the linebacker had to drop into short coverage and choose which wide receiver. They're about 10 yards apart. They're linebackers catching balls, but which wide receiver to go break up the pass. He had to drop full speed, pick up where the pass was going, and go break it up. This is a quick group able to do that. And to no surprise, Jack Kaiser did it the best. But as time went on, you realize this is a Jalen Sneed wheelhouse too, getting back into his zone coverage fast and knocking down the flats. Jaden Osbury with a one-handed pick that was beautiful. Osbury was all over it. I thought one of the highlights of it because, for all intents and purposes, everything we hear about Kingston Viliamuasa is great. I heard Max Bull say specifically, let's see if you have any ball skills. And he broke up a pass. He made a little contact. It might have been the only one, but it ended up being a tip drill interception by a former linebacker that had NFL roots in Marcus Freeman.
How about that? Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. We mentioned KVA's foot speed the first day. It just it pops out at you. Tim, I'm going to jump back to you because I know you're around the defensive line a little bit. R.J. Oben, I think, continues to impress. Al Washington commented on that. And there's some young guys. I mentioned one of them the other day, but there's a second one on the inside that maybe Notre Dame beyond that top 4 at defensive tackle, of course, with Gabe Rubio out with the injury. There looks like to be some real depth developing there.
Yeah, Donovan Heinisch is the one that obviously moves up, and Al Golden said that today when you're looking at the 4th guy. That was clear. He was the easy 5th. We asked about players, and he just said, and Armel is the other one, Armel Mukam. Armel Mukam was the guy that jumped into practice 1 when Rubio was out. We didn't know what happened that Rubio was out. We just saw Mukam involved. And I bring this up because everybody else was on the other field. It's not like we missed reps by those other interior linemen. They were on the scout team and 3rd-team field. There were really good players on that field. C.J. Carr, Deion Colsey. There's plenty of guys over there. But Mukam was the one that came in for Rubio. Al Golden singled him out today. That means he's had a really good summer because if people haven't heard his name in a while, he missed the spring with a torn labrum. So that's why you didn't hear anything about him in the spring. It's good to see. I mean, the big number 88 looks good on him. He can move out there a little bit. And, that doesn't mean he would be better than Gabriel Rubio or pushing Gabriel Rubio this year. It means they have an answer that can help out because Donovan Heinisch is good. He's not big.
And I noticed Mukam in yesterday's practice, and he showed some twitch inside. He has added the weight. I think he's maybe listed at around 302. And you're right, the 88 sort of sticks out when you see that slide in there into the defensive interior. But I watched him. He got praised yesterday in practice for disrupting things and for being able to get off blocks and make some movement. He's got that quickness, but he's also got a bigger frame.
I was just going to say, he's got a big frame.
I mean, Heinisch is a good player. He's going to play more than Mukam, but Donovan Heinisch does not have the frame of coming in at nose tackle like Rubio and then Mukam would.
Yeah. Also, Sean Sevillano, I mentioned him the other day. He was listed at 330 something in the spring. I think they have him listed at 320 now. I don't know what his weight is exactly. It's difficult to tell with a guy of that size, but his quickness continues to flash, and his stamina continues to flash. He runs a play, he pops up, he sprints back to his side of the football on the defensive side. I've just been very impressed with those two guys. And Mookum is, you're right, we didn't have an opportunity to see him, and now we're getting a chance to see him. JB, what else do you see?
Jeremiah Love, visiting with him a good bit this afternoon, he really stood out to me. He told me that he's up to around 210 pounds. I asked him specifically where he is in pass pro. I think T.O. ended up asking a follow-up question about that. And I asked him, how do you work on pass pro in the summer when you're doing a lot of indie stuff? And he said he had studied some film, and he pointed to his strength in all of his body. He's gained strength. We've been talking about it for weeks now on the podcast and on these first few video instant analysis. He is stronger. He said, look, I feel stronger in my quads, and I've got really long arms. He honestly, he started coaching me. He said, I've got really long arms. These guys are coming at me with five yards of full head of steam. I've got to get my strength and my arms out and keep them off of me. And it was really interesting. It was really enlightening to hear him. I ask a question and he starts coaching it. And I think that's a sign of understanding that he not only knows he has to do it, but he's understanding how he needs to do it and why he needs to do it. He made it very clear that he believes he can be the number one back. He thinks he can be the third down back, and he even joked that he would like to return punts and return kickoffs. But he said, I've got to get the running back thing down first. I'm still going to be lined up outside. He goes, they're giving me some chances to split out wide. He said, I'm not the only running back that's being looked at to do some route running. I thought that was very interesting.
He's a quick study. I mean, Deland McCullough has talked about that all along. Jeremiah Love will tell you, I'm smart. I'm a smart football player. I know how to do all these things. Speaking of smart football players and guys with a ton of potential, Jadarian Price, we were talking to Deland McCullough. Deland McCullough is always a great interview. And he admitted something that I don't think, a whole lot of people were willing to admit last year. I know that Jadarian Price wasn't, but he was coming off that Achilles injury, and he just, Achilles and ACLs, you can come back, you can play, but you need that second year before you're fully healthy. And Deland McCullough said, we paced him last year, and he said the family understood what we were trying to do with him, and they appreciated what we did. I think there were times along the way that Jadarian felt like he should have got a little bit, he should have got a little bit more work, but he's in a good spot now.
Yeah, and there's many roles to be won. It's not just third down back. There's short yardage, and I asked Deland McCullough specifically about short yardage. He said, heck, JD had more yards after contact than anybody coming back. Jeremiah Love has the ability to just kind of knife in there in short yardage. And he goes, Aeneas Williams is the guy like in short yardage. He finds creases. He found them all spring, and he said Keedron Young's the big guy. And I asked this question because I wanted to see if the name was going to come out or if I had to say it. And then he started drifting off, and he goes, and you could even go deeper. And I go, are you talking about Justin Fisher? He goes, Justin Fisher in short yardage can be the short yardage guy, but the key is he needs Justin Fisher to handle everything else as a running back. He said Fisher likes this is a local Mishawaka product. Mishawaka High School product. He said Justin Fisher likes to say, I just run the ball, and Deland McCullough said nobody just runs the ball. You have to do everything I want.
Not in Deland's room. Everybody has a job, and you've got to know all 9 jobs, I think it is, that he told me he has up on his job board. Speaking of Deland McCullough, I wanted to bring this around. He told me that he gave their ball presentation drill last night, that he set down all the running backs and gave their ball presentation. It's called locking the house. You bring it in, you lock it home, you lock the house when you secure the football. I thought that was really interesting. He told me Devin Ford might be the single most unselfish player he's ever been around. I got a chance to ask Devin Ford actually about how unselfish he is before asking Deland about him. Devin told me it's funny you asked me that question. I had this conversation with my mom last night, and she said, Devin, when are you going to be selfish? And he said, Mom, I'm never going to be a selfish guy. It'll be better for me in the long run. I'm meeting great people here. I've got a chance to do great things here. I'll never be the selfish guy, Mom, but I'll be the best teammate I can be. That maybe is one of the best quotes I've ever heard.
No doubt, and he's proven it.
When the NFL is a special teamer too. So
when you talk about pass pro, he's the best of the bunch, right. and special teams, he's huge. Last thing I want to wrap up. Drew Mentak from Irish Illustrated offered this. He was observing Mike Denbrock in the offense, and they were running through the motions, particularly motion and pre-snap. And Denbrock got upset at one point because the receivers weren't running it hard enough. You got to sell it. You can't just, you can't just jog. And so Denbrock has been salty himself here the first couple days because he knows it's go time. It's preseason now. You can let the players get to know you a little bit in the spring, but it's go time now, and so he's being real insistent.
Well, sad that they put on shoulder pads today. We should note they put on shoulder pads today. Today is the first time in pads, which means sometime toward the middle of next week they'll be in full gear and that much closer, 3.5 weeks from playing Texas A&M.
Yeah, without being specific, the reality is that there's been 3 practices and we've had observation all 3 days. It's going to loosen.
Slow down for a little while.
It's going to slow down a little bit for a while the next 2 weeks, but we'll have an opportunity next week to talk further about all this. There will be an Irish Illustrated Insider podcast on Monday, and until then, Tim Priester and Tim O'Malley from Irish Illustrated, John Brice from Football Scoop. This has been Irish Illustrated Instant Analysis.